Good morning, guys. Sorry that the stream started 6 minutes late, but we are going to be waiting to for others for the next 10 minutes. Then we'll start. Just 10 minutes, and we'll start. So,
Good morning, sir.
good morning, boss. How are you?
I'm fine, sir.
Hope you had a great week.
Yes, sir.
Mm, Just waiting for others.
Sir?
I'm just waiting for others so they can join.
All right.
It is raining here. Oh. Is it raining on your end too?
Sir?
It is raining heavily here. Is it raining on your end too?
Yes, it is. It is raining here too.
Ha.
Well, not heavily.
Well, heavily is a strong word. So we might not classify this one too as heavily, but since morning.
It is raining. It's been raining.
Well, I guess it's 1 minute more. 1 minute more. Okay, let's start. Let's start. So,
All right, sir.
hi, man of mercy. Okay, so the first one we're going to be talking about, we're going to be taking is lists. So, like what I said in the video, a list is a collection of items. So, a list tuple set dictionary is a collection of items, basically. One thing you should know is that all these data types they have their use cases. They have their use cases, and it is because of the unique features each of them have. But on the long run, all of them can be used to store multiple data at the same time. You understand? For example, if you take the variable as an example, the variable can only store one data at once. But a list, you can use it to house two different data. You understand? You can use it
So,
to house three data, four data. Take an example. If you say name is just one person's name, but with the use of the list and the tuples, you can store names. You understand? You can store people's profile
yes, sir.
because it is a list. It is a list basically. A list can contain no character, one character or multiple characters. You understand? So
Yes,
starting with the list now. Um, let me list, starting with the list markdown. Okay, so a list, let me say names, halogen. Now, if you take a good look at this thing I have over here now, this is a list of all of us that are on this stream as a guest. You understand? A list of all of us that are on the stream as a guest. I have Halogen, I have Charles, I have Man of Mercy. This is what a list looks like in its simplest term. If you want to define a list, this is something a list looks like. You understand?
Yes,
Containing
sir.
multiple items. And if you have something like names equal to an empty list, it is also a list. This is just an empty list. Why this list has items in it? You understand? So that is it basically. So if you want to print a list, just say print list names, for example. You understand? You can see it is showing the whole list over here. It is showing the whole list over here. So the list items, they are ordered, they are changeable, and they allow duplicate entries. Ordered, changeable, and they allow duplicate entries. Let me tell you what I mean by ordered. Ordered is that this is taking index 0, this is taking index 1, this is taking index 2. The index will never change. The index position will never change. The item itself can change. I can bring Charles here and bring halogen here. You understand? I can bring Charles here,
Yes, sir.
halogen here, but the order will never change. The item at the first instance will always take the index of 0 because indexing in program generally starts from 0. You understand? So this will be 0, 1, 2, just like we did in
Yes.
list, if you remember, in string, if you remember.
String.
So
Yes, sir.
that is it. The order will never change. This is the zeroth index. This is the first index, and this is the second index. So that is what I mean by ordered. Ordered. Now they are changeable means that I can come here and say um, names, then the item at the zeroth index rather. I can say Alex. If I should run this one now, you can see that initially names used to be Halogen, Charles, and Man of Mercy. But at some point, I changed the item at the zeroth index, which is the first item over here, to Alexander. And while printing the names that I have, it is giving me Alexander in that zeroth index. You get? So this is what I mean by
Yes,
changeable. It is mutable. You understand? So lastly, it allows duplicate values. Like in this particular data type, it allows duplicate values. For example, I can come and say halogen. No, halogen. Now, if I should run this, you see, it is not throwing up. You understand? Unlike set, in a
yes, sir.
set, you cannot have duplicate values. In a set, you cannot have duplicate values. You cannot. So that is that about that. So if you want to get the length of a list, in Python generally, when you talk about length, you are talking about the number of elements that makes up something. So in programming generally, actually. So let me. If you want to get the number of elements in this list item over here, just use the len function. This len function passing the list and it will bring out the number of items that make up the list. It will bring out the number of items that make up the list. So um that is it. Also, a list item can contain any data type. A list item can contain any data type at all. So you can have a list of, let me say, can have a list of, let me say, numbers equal to, I say 2. 3, 1, 5, and all that. You can also say names equal to these names that we have over here. So don't let me rewrite it. You can see this is a list of strings. This is a list of numbers. You can even have a list of lists. You understand? So there is no discrimination. Let me put it that way for lists. And another thing is that you can also have a list of multiple data types. For example, you can say profile equal to the first item in the list might be the person's name. So we can say the name is Chris, then halogen, then the age. We can say 14. No. The age has to be a number. 14. The body mass index. Let's say 25.27. Then I can say, does he smoke? False. Does he have a BSc? True. You get, I'm just trying to like show you that you can see that in this case over here, you're having a list of only strings. In this case, you're
Yes, sir.
having a list of numbers. But in this particular case, you're having a list of multiple data types. You understand? So the Python list is that flexible. Profile. If I should print profile, print profile. If I run it, you can see a list of multiple data types. So the list is that flexible. Another thing you want to know, I showed you this when I was explaining strings. If you want to get the type of any data type in Python, you use the type function. So if you want to get the type of this data over here, you just bring this in. It will give you lists. It will give you lists to show that this is a list data type. So we also have the list constructor. The constructor, you use the list constructor to construct lists basically. So if you have a tuple that you want to convert to a list, for example, let's say you have a tuple of numbers, say numbers. This is a tuple over here. The difference between a list and a tuple, the fundamental difference is just the fact that you can see the list. This is the kind of bracket you use for a list. So the square bracket. Why is this one? It's just the what do they call this one again? um the normal parenthesis is the one you used for tuples. So I can say 2, 4, 1, 6, 7. If you look for the type of nums, you can see that it is tuple that you are having. It is tuple. But if I should create another variable now, say nums underscore list, I can use the list constructor, which is basically this. Then I'm now passing nums, any collection at all, passing into the, I'm sure of Python set and dictionary. Python's tuple and set. So nums list, you say type of nums underscore list. Run it. No, I have to print both of them. Print. Okay, you can see that the first one is showing list, and the second one is showing tuple. The first one is showing list, and the second one is showing tuple. So that is how you use the list constructor. So um can you guys give me just 2 minutes, please? Just 2 minutes.
All right, sir.
Okay, let's move on. So now the next thing we are going to be looking is how to access the items in a list. So if you want to access the items in a list, very simple. We have profile. The profile variable that we created initially. So if I want to access this crease, just like we did in strings, this crease it will be the zeroth index. Understand? So if I want to
Yes, sir.
access if I want to access halogen, it will be the first index, just like we did in strings. Understand? If I want to access the last element, I'll just say -1, which is true. Then the same way we have string slicing in strings is the same way we have slicing in strings is the same way we have slicing in lists. So I won't spend too much time on this. So if I want to slice from say halogen to make this false over here, so I'm going to be starting from the first index. You understand? One, two, three, four, five. So that would be 1:5. Like I said, slicing is what you use to get a portion of a whole. You understand? We have a whole, but you want to get a portion of it. That is what you use slicing for. So that is how you access list items. Then you also slice them. And like I said, negative indexing also works here, just like we have in lists, in strings rather. So if I want to get the last item, like I said the other time, just say -1. If I want to get the second to the last item, just -2, and it works. Another thing you can do is to check if an item exists in a list using the in operator. The in operator. If you remember the in operator when we did booleans. So let me add another. If you remember the in operator, that in operator, for example, if I want to check if Chris exists in profile, I can say Chris in profile. You can see it is giving me true because Chris exists in profile. So if I change this one to small letter, I change this one to small letter, it is giving me false because what we have in profile is a capitalized Chris with the first character as a capital letter. But what I'm seeing over here is totally different, which is small letter. So that is also another thing you want to know about a list. Now, a list has if you want to change the list item, I did something over here. I did something over here. You can see what I did over here. I have a list of items, a list of strings. Then this first item over here, I changed it to Alexander. You understand? Like I said, the list is changeable. So you can change any of the item. That is what I did over here. So in this profile over here, let's assume you want to change this name to maybe Sandra. You want to change this Chris to Sandra. All you have to do is to do something like this. Profile 0 equal to Sandra. And if you should print profile at this point, see it's given Sandra, halogen, then every other thing. So that is how you change the item in a list. That is how you change the item in a list. So I'm not going to be spending much time on that. I'm trying to save us as much time as possible because all these things have been treated in the course already. So um I'm trying to okay, if you want to add a list item, if you want to add a list item, if you want to add a list item, you say, for example, see what I have over here. I have Sandra, halogen 14, 25.27, false and true. Now let's say I want to add another item to this particular profile list. Um, can you suggest what other item I can add here, Charles? Just suggest one. What other item can I add to this profile?
Mm.
I would have
It
said
already
account
has all
balance.
the data.
I would have
Okay.
said account balance, but that would be a sorry case
We have
because
25.27 there.
that is the body mass index. That cannot be somebody's account balance. Aleshu.
It can, it can.
You mean on OP? You mean on OP? So,
Even a
um,
normal bank account.
your normal bank account. You know, some banks won't allow you to
Yes,
withdraw
ma'am.
200 naira. So let's just add something
Some
to it.
banks.
Now, some banks.
Okay.
So let's just add something to it. Say you want to add, um, let me say name of best friend. What is the name of my best friend again? I think his name is Daniel. So I can say
Samuel. Okay.
profile dot append. You understand? Now
Yes, sir.
you will see what will happen over here, Daniel. Then let me print profile. You can see what I have. This Daniel, he added it to the end of the list. You understand? This Daniel
Yes, sir.
now, append, I'm adding it to the end of the list. That is what I'm having over here. Sandra, halogen 14. This is the original list over here. But I'm using this append function to add an item to the list. So it will automatically assume that, okay, you want to add it to the end of the list. You understand? But what if you want to
Yes, sir.
insert it at a particular index? If you want to insert it to a particular index, you can use the insert method to insert the data into a particular index. Let's say I want to add a middle name to this list now, and the middle name is going to be at the first index. So I can just say profile dot insert. I first of all bring in the index where I want the data to be, which is the first index. Then I'll now bring in the data, maybe Alex. So let me print profile at this point. Hmm. So run this. You can see I have Alexandra, I have Sandra, Alexandria. You understand? And it is at the first index. This is what I had initially. This append, this append, it brought Daniel to the end of the list, but this insert over here, I specified that I want this to be at the first index. So basically, what this insert is going to do is that it's going to shift every other item to the right. Then it will now assume the first index, and halogen will come second, and 14 will come third, and like that, like that. Like I said, whichever way you want to manipulate your list, you can manipulate it whichever way you want to manipulate your list. It is the tuple that is not this flexible. The tuple is not flexible at all. So one cutaway method around it is that if you want to do anything in a tuple, you first of all convert it to a list, then do whatever you want to do in list, then take it back to a tuple. That is one way to get around a tuple. So now we move on to another thing. I'm trying to cut some corners. Okay, so if you have two lists and you want to match the two of them together, you understand? Let me say I have two lists. One is even and one is odd. If I have two lists, let me say even equal to even numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Then odd numbers, at least 7 years in Unilag, they know waste. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 13. So now you can see the list I have, even and odd. So if I print even, I'll be getting all these things. If I print odd, I'll be getting all these things. But what if I want to merge the two of them together? I can say all numbers. You understand? One way to
Yes,
do
sir.
this, one way to do this, um, I can use the extend function. I can use the extend function to do something like this. I can say all. All is a keyword. All numbers equal to an empty list. Then I'll now say all numbers extends. I don't think the S is supposed to be there. Okay, it's just extend. Extend even. Then if I should print all numbers at this point, you can see I'm having 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And all numbers used to be an empty list. You get all numbers used to be an empty list. Now, since I have even numbers here, all I have to do again is just to repeat this. But now this will be for odd. This is actually a stupid way to do this thing. This is a stupid way to do this thing because you see, I had to write how many lines of code? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now that is not economical at all. So you can see the way I merge these two lists now into one other list. You understand? So that is how you can combine lists together to form one. So now, if you want to remove list item, I've shown you how to add an item to a list. Now you want to remove a list
Yes, sir.
item.
So how?
What you I'm listening, I'm listening.
Yes, sir. How do you extend? How do you join the two lists without going this long way?
Um I can't remember, but I know there is one there is a join function somewhere. I think the join is for set. Okay, union is for set. Union is for set. You can use list comprehension to join the two lists together. List comprehension. I don't know if okay, if I do even plus odd, it will add all the numbers of even to the numbers of odd. Let's try it out. Even plus odd. Yes, even plus odd will merge all the lists together. Charles, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
You see what I have? Even plus odd. Just even plus odd.
Yes,
So
sir.
it will merge the two lists together. But I'm only trying to introduce you to this inbuilt function over here. This extend function. It is inbuilt into Python. So naturally, that is what you will want to do. Please let me. My network is about to come the way it used to come. Let me keep it close to where it will see better
Um,
network.
I'm I'm seeing that from here.
Um, mm, um, what's to do with trade off? Whether you like it or not, you must work. Okay, I think it's better now.
Amen. Yes, sir.
Okay. So okay, let's move on. Let's move on. So I've shown you how to add list items. Now, what if we want to remove list item? What if we want to remove a list item? Two ways. The first one might be to just use the remove function. For example, let me have all these my numbers inside one list. So let me say nums equal to even plus odd. So if I should print nums, what am I having? I'm going to be having a list of even and odd numbers. If I want to remove 7, for example, all I have to do is to say nums dot let me start another kernel. If I want to remove this 7, I can say nums dot remove passing 7, which is the item you want to remove. Let me print nums to be sure that you can see initially everything here contained 7, but after I removed 7, there's no 7 anywhere here again. So that is one way to remove an item from a list. Another way is to use the pop method. Now, this pop method can have it can be used in two ways. If you want to delete the last item in a list, you just use the pop method directly like that. Let me show you what I mean. So just say nums dot pop. Understand the pop is targeted at this element 13 over here. So if I should print nums, see the element 13 is gone. But what if I want to remove item at a particular index and not just 13? I've shown you how to remove an item directly. Now I've shown you how to remove the last
Yes, sir.
item. Now let me show you how to remove
Yes,
at
sir.
a particular index. If I want to remove this 10, for example, if I want to remove that 10, what I will do, very simple. I will just look for the index of 10. 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 10 is at index 4. I can say nums dot pop. And what am I popping? At index 4. Now
So
let me print num.
nums
So you see that the item at index 4 is gone. So
is gone.
12 is the
Yes,
is
sir.
the new item at index 4. You understand? If you don't pass in any parameters to pop, it will assume that you want to pop the last item, which is what happened over here. But if you supply an item to pop, it will take the item as the index of the element that you want to remove. So that is it. So now if you want to empty a list, like for one reason or the other, you want to delete all the items in a list, there is this clear method that list has. Nums dot clear. If you print nums, guess what? All gone. If you print nums, everything is gone. Everything is gone. So that is how you remove items in a list. Now the next thing we are going to be looking at is how to loop through a list, how to traverse a list basically. That's the language. How to traverse a list. Now, if you want to traverse a list, you use a loop. You can use a for loop or a while loop. You understand? If you see what I did in
Yes,
the
sir.
in the course, I said anything you do with a for loop, you can also do with a while loop. It just depends on how good you are with the two of them. Anything you do with a for loop, you can also do with a while loop. It's a function of how good you are with whatever you are using. You get. So now
Yes, sir.
let's use a for loop to print out all the let me remove this one over here. Let me remove this one so I can use the list. Nums. A nums is not an empty list. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Okay. Let me say nums equal to even plus odd. Again. Okay, this should be not okay. So I have my nums list again. Now if I want to traverse, this is nums. Now traversing a list basically is visiting all the elements that make up the list. Visiting all the elements that make up the list. That is what it means to traverse a list. So traversing the list now you have a for loop for you can say for number in nums print number. You can see. all the numbers and nums. It is printing everything individually. That is basically how to loop through a list. That's basically how to loop through a list. Another thing you can do is to find the square of each of the number in the list. All you have to do is just raise to the power of 2. And if you should run it, you can see the square of 2 is 4. The square of 4 is 16. The square of 6 is 36. The square of 8 is 64. 10 is 100, like that, like that. So that is how you loop through a list using a for loop. You can also use a while loop, but I'll just leave that for now. So you can also sort the alphabet in a list alphanumerically. So you can, for example, let me say, you can see this list I have over here now is not sorted. It's not sorted. So let me say, if I want to sort the list, I'll just say nums dot sort and boom. No, let me print nums. You can see this function over here sorts the list. Then I have, let me print because you might not be using Jupyter Notebook on your end. So basically, that is how you sort the items you have in a list. That's how you sort the items in a list. Okay, so you can also sort the. You can see this first list I have over here now. You can sort this list also alphabetically to have everything in alphabetical order. So let's just say names dot sort. Run this. You can see I have Alexander, Charles, Halogen, and Man of Mercy. Halogen and Man of Mercy. So you can see this is sorted. Halogen used to be the item at the last index, but we've swapped it with Man of Mercy because H comes before M. So and don't forget, this is Alexander over here. This is Alexander over here. So that is how to sort the items in a list. Now, another thing you want to know is that if you want to sort it in reverse, in descending order, you can just say reverse equal to true. So you can see that it is sorted in the reverse order now 13, 12, 11, like that. So that is how you sort the items in a list. You can also write your sort function, but that will be that's not
Yes,
we
sir.
will not be doing that. I'm listening.
Okay, I tried using this sort dot reverse equal to 0 to solve one of the exercises, but I didn't get it. I saw your solution, but I didn't really get your solution, like why you had to do what you did in the
Where I have
solution.
to do what I did. So what did I did? What did
What
I
you
did?
did was right, but what you did was right, but I don't know why you did that.
Okay, okay. Which of the problems?
Okay, can I just type it
Type it, type it.
on the comment section?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Type it in the comments. Type it in the
Mm.
comments. I want us to move to tuples. Okay, okay, that will accept a word from a user and it will reverse it. That will accept a word
Yes,
from a
sir.
user, then it will reverse it. What did I do? Okay,
Mm,
I wrote a for loop. Then I said for I in range, the length of the list minus one, comma minus one, comma minus one.
comma minus one, comma minus one. Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me explain. Let me explain. So basically, you have a word, for example, university, and you want to reverse this word. Understand? If you just like we are traversing this list now. If you look at this list over here, we are traversing the list from the beginning to the end. What I did in that particular solution is basically traversing the list from the end to the beginning. You understand? From the end to the beginning. So if you see this word now, let me say, if I want to loop through this word, I can say for every character in word, understand? Print that character.
Yes, sir. Yes,
You understand?
I'm not seeing the screen, sir.
You're not seeing the
Okay.
screen. What's happening?
I can see now. No, like where you're typing.
Okay, let me hide this one.
Mm,
Okay, so word, university. Now, you understand what I did here, traversing from the beginning to the end. Abi?
yes, sir. Yes,
Now I
sir.
want to traverse from the end to the beginning. I want to traverse from the end to the beginning. And for me to be able to do that, I cannot do it straightforward like this. The for loop, it will just automatically take it from the beginning to the end. What I can do is to say for I in range. Now, when we talk about lists, when we talk about the for loop, I will introduce you to this range function. So the range function is what you are going to be using
Mhm.
to generate a list of numbers, basically series. So this range function now, it can take three different arguments, but one is compulsory. Now, if you are giving it only one parameter, for example, 8, it is going to be looping through from 0 to 8. Let me print I. From 0 to 7 rather, it will exclude the last item. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That is if you are giving it only one parameter. It will assume that that parameter is the stop point. So what if I want it to start at 2, for example? I can just say 2, comma 8. So it will start at 2, end at 8. At 7 rather. It will start at 2, end at 7. Don't forget, this is exclusive. You understand? This is exclusive. Now, what if I want it to be moving in steps? By default, the step is going to be 1. But if I want it to be moving in twos, just say comma 2. It will be 2, 4, 6. The last item in the range is going to be 7. 7 is not if 6 plus 2 is 8. 8 is not a member of this list. You understand? So it will be 268. Now, what I want to achieve with counting backwards over here now, I can say I want it to start at, for example, if the length of the list, if the length of the word is 10, meaning that the last item in the last character in that word, the index is going to be 10 minus 1, which is the length of the word minus 1. So the starting point is going to be the length of the word, but you're going to be removing 1. Don't forget, this university, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The length of university is 10. But this last item over here now, the index is going to be 9. But I believe you
9.
understand that one.
Yes, sir.
So this is the starting point over here now, which is 9. Now, I'm counting backwards from 9 to 0. You understand? But you know that if I stop at 0, it is not going to be including the zeroth element. So I'm going to be stopping at -1 for it to be able to stop at 0. You get? And if you look at this step over here now, this step over here,
Mm.
I'm counting backwards. By default, the step is 1. By default, the step is going to be 1. But because I'm counting backwards, I'm going to be using -1 as the step for it to be counting backwards. So if I should print this, you can see the index it is counting. For this first one, it is printing 987654321 0. So this is basically the index of all the characters that is inside. So if I should print, for example, word indexing I, you can see what I have. Instead of printing the I, I'm printing word indexing that I. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So another thing I can do to make my life easier is to say output equal to an empty string. Then I'll now say, instead of printing it, I can just come here and say, for every time that you generate this thing, now you can say output plus equal to. Don't forget your concatenation. Then when you are done, print output. So basically, every time that you run this loop, you extract the current character using word indexing I, then you append it to output. So at the end, you come and show output. I believe that you understand now.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
you're welcome. You're welcome. So we move on to tuples. We move on to tuples. Now, tuples, unlike lists, their wahala is too much. So a tuple, it is unchangeable. It is ordered. It is indexed, but it is unchangeable, and it is written with round brackets. So let's say three people. Say James, say Peter, and Simon. Let's say people equal to James, Peter, and Simon. Now, all these people that I have over here now, if I should print people, I have James, Peter, and Simon. This is how you write a tuple. This is how you write a tuple. And guess what? You cannot change anything inside a tuple. You cannot. They will not permit it. So, like I said, it is ordered. It allows duplicates, but you cannot change anything inside. For example, you can have another James here. So you can see that this are James is a duplicate now. So it allows two James, but you cannot do anything apart from that one. It is ordered in the sense that you can say people indexing 0. See, James, the index 1, it gives you Peter. So there is an order that it follows. But you cannot change anything inside. Cannot change anything inside. Now,
Can you add?
it is immutable. You cannot change anything. Cannot add, you cannot remove. Cannot add, cannot remove. So the people that did tuple, they did it for scenarios where you have constant data that you don't want to, you don't want the user to be able to change. That is where you use tuples. You have data that is constant. For example, since I was born and now that I am getting old, pi has always been 3.142. Pi, constant. You understand? It will never change. So
Yes,
if
sir.
I'm working in an environment where I have to I have to work with data that is especially sensitive data that is constant, that will never change, You might be building a software for a client and you don't want anybody to be able to change the client's credentials. You can store it in a tuple. You understand? So that is it. So if you want to get the length of a tuple, you can just use the len function like we have always been using. So you can do something like len of people. You see, the length of people is 4. So if you want to create a tuple with only one item, you have to do something like this. You say, you can say classes equal to, say, JSS1. Now, this thing I have over here, if I should say JSS1, and I want to look for the type of classes, you can see that it is saying classes as a string, even though I declared it with the round brackets. You understand? Now, how do you rectify this? It's a tuple you want to create with only one item. You come here with a comma. If you should run this, it will see it as a tuple. You see it as a tuple. One thing is that as beginners, you don't get to use tuple that often, but it's good for you to know all these things. You don't get to use tuple that often, but it's good for you to know all these things. So I'm trying to skip some of the things that we have to do. So just as in list, the same way you do positive indexing, negative indexing, slicing, negative slicing, checking if an item exists is the same thing as in tuple. The way you do it in list is the same way you do it in tuple. But but like I said the other time, you cannot change anything in a tuple. But what if I'm in a delicate situation where I actually do have reason to change something? You can do it this way. So I have a tuple like this. I have this tuple over here, and I have to change this. I discovered that this James is a duplicate. If for one reason or the other, I have to change James to, say, David. You understand? All I have to do,
Yes, sir.
one thing I can do is to convert. I can say people list. You understand? Equal to list. Don't forget this list constructor over here. We also have the tuple constructor that I use to create tuples. So this list constructor, you pass in people. Understand? Now, if I should print people list, you can see that this people over here is a tuple, but this people list is a list. Is a list. Now, I can make whatever modifications I want to make. This is what I'm targeting over here, the last item. So I can just say people list indexing -1 equal to David. If I should print people list again, you see, I'm having James, Peter, Simon, and David. Now, moving on, since have done all the modifications I want to do, I can bring back my tuple now. I can just say people equal to tuple. The tuple is going to be taking
People.
people lists. Now, let me print people instead. You can see initially I'm having James, Peter, Simon, and James, but I want to bring David to this last item over here. So I can convert it to a list first, do whatever I want to do, then bring it back to a tuple. So anytime you have a tuple and you have to make modifications to the tuple, you convert it to a list, do all your modifications, then bring it back to a tuple. You understand? So
Yes, sir.
that is it basically. If you have to delete an item, if you have to remove pop, whatsoever you want to do, my brother, the first thing you do is to convert to a list, then you convert to a tuple. You get. So
Yes, sir.
there is something called tuple unpacking. Tuple unpacking, and it comes in very handy in programming. It comes in very handy in programming. Tuple unpacking. Now, tuple unpacking is what you use to. There's no easier way to explain it apart from saying is what you use to unpack tuples. I will give you an example. I'll give you an example. Tuple
Okay.
unpacking. If I have something like a tuple, say 2, comma 3, comma 4, and do something like x, comma y, comma z equal to this. X, comma y, comma z equals to 2, 3, and 4. Now, if I should print x, print y, and also print z, you see what I have over here? I'm saying x, comma y, comma z equals to a tuple. Don't forget, the number of variables I have over here is the number of items I have in this tuple here. So basically, I'm assigning um an item in a position to the variable in that position. So the item at the variable at the first index is x. The item at the first index is 2. So I'm assigning 2 to x, 3 to y, and 4
Then
to z.
y to
That is
z.
what you call tuple unpacking. That is what you call tuple unpacking. So we move on to, if you want to loop through a tuple, you can you can loop through a tuple using the for loop, the while loop. You can also loop through a tuple using the index. You can also loop through a tuple using indexing. So I will demonstrate the two of them. See these people that I have over here now.
Yes, sir.
Print. I have James, Peter, Simon, and David. If I want to loop through this tuple now, I can just say for person people print person. You see, James, Peter, Simon, and David. If you want to use indexing to if you want to use indexing to traverse the tuple, you can say for index in length in range length of people. Don't forget this length of people now will be 4. You understand? But since it
Yes,
automatically
sir.
it's going to be starting from 0 to 4, so it will be counting 0, 1, 2, and 3. So you say print people indexing index to give you the same thing. To give you the same thing. So there is also this enumerate function. This enumerate function, I don't know if it works for tuples though. Enumerate people. Okay. This enumerate is going to be returning an index and is going to be returning a value. A value. So you can just say index comma value. So you see, for all the items in the list, it is returning the index and the value. So this is one other way you can traverse the tuple. You might get into situations where this is what you can use to solve it. So just have it in mind. Just have it in mind. So we'll leave that for now. So if you want to join two tuples, if you want to join two tuples, you can use the plus operator like we did in list. Like we did in list, you can join two tuples. For example, let me also use the even and the odd number. Okay, let me say boys equal to a list of boys. Samuel, Daniel, and Chris. Then girls, I like to use Sandra. Blessing. And I have a friend whose name is Claire. I don't know if this is correct, but Claire, if you are saying this, anytime you are saying this, if this is not correct, please bear with me. So now I have boys and girls. I can say um, boys and girls equal to boys plus girls. Just like we did in list. Print boys and girls. So you can see all of them. That is how you join a tuple basically. That's how you join a tuple. So another thing that Python allow you to do is to do something like this. You can say number equal to a tuple. Say 3 and 5. And come here and do something like this. Number multiplied by 7. You can see what I have. I have a tuple, number equals to 3, comma 5. So number multiplied by 7 is going to be giving me 3, 5, 3, 5, 3, 5 in 7 places. Everything in the same tuple. So you see that the tuple has its own special use cases too. It has its own special use cases too. So let's move on. Let's move on. Um let's go to sets. Let's go to sets. Let us go to sets. Let me make this a markdown. Okay. So for Python sets, they are used to store like every other collection. You use them to store multiple items in a particular variable. You understand? You use them to store multiple items in a particular variable. So for you to create a set, let me use this people over here and say a set of people equal to, but they're going to be using curly braces. Curly braces. Okay, curly braces. If I want to come here and say type of people, see, type of people is set. So basically, that is a set for you. Now, a set also has its own peculiarities. A set also has its own peculiarities because it is unordered, unchangeable, and unindexed. Unordered, unchangeable, and unindexed. So, um, what I mean by unordered, it doesn't have any defined order. It doesn't have any defined order. There's no order at all. If I print people, now take a good look at what I have over here. Now this is James, Peter, Simon, and David. But down here, I'm having James, David, Peter, Simon. No order. Print again. Okay. If I should print again. Okay, I think that kernel. Okay, this doesn't actually work in Jupyter Notebook. I have to close the kernel and bring it back on for this to actually reflect. But if you are running this in something like VS Code, every time you run it, it will give you something different. Every time you run it, it will give you something different. So it is unordered, unindexed, unchangeable. Unordered, unindexed, and unchangeable. So And duplicates are also not allowed. You cannot have duplicate element in a set. For example, let's say I want to add another James. I should run this and I want to print people. You can see that it is not printing the second James. It will just automatically sieve it out as if it doesn't exist. So this is a good time for me to introduce you to one trick. If you have a list with multiple elements, if you have a list with multiple elements and you want to remove all the
Yes, sir.
duplicate items in the list, one tactical way to do it is to convert it to a set, then convert it back to a list. If you convert it to a set, then you bring it back to a list. Automatically, the set is going to sieve out all the duplicate items. Then you bring it back to a list. You bring it back to a list. So now, what are we
Can
going
we
to be?
can we also convert?
I'm listening.
Okay, sir. Can we also convert a set to a list so that we can index
Okay,
characters
so
in a set?
let me. I've never had to try that before. Let me just say list of people. Yes, you can convert it to a list. You can see that people is
Okay.
James, Peter, Simon, and David, and I use the list constructor here, and it's giving me James, David, Peter, Simon. So obviously, as a list, you can do an undo. Then when you are done doing what you did, so you convert it back to a set. Personally, I'm a fan of the
All
list
right.
because I can do whatever I want to do in the list. So I don't want us to spend too much time on sets because I really have to use it. So I just want to basically introduce us to sets. So now, you cannot access items in a set using the index. Like it is unindexed, it is unordered. But what you can do is to loop through the items in a set. So, for example, I have people. No, people is I have people over here now. Now, one thing I can do is to say for person in people print person James David Peter Simon. This is one way you can access the set items. You can access set items, but it is unordered, it is unindexed. There is nothing you can do. So another thing you can do is to check if a particular item exists in the set. So for you to check, you can use the in operator. You can use the in operator. So that in operator, for example, I can check if James exists in people, and don't forget people is a set from here. So I can say I can do something like this. I can say James in people. She's giving me true. If I say true in people, no. If I say maybe Chris in people, it's giving me false because look at the set of people now. Look at the set. Chris is not part of people. So okay. So that will be all about accessing items. Now, this is one interesting part of sets. For you to add an item to a set, there is this method called add. There's this method called add. So, for example, you can see that Chris is not in people. What if I want to add Chris to people? You can just say people dot add and you bring in Chris. So print people. You see that Chris is not a member of the set. And come on, I'm having James, Peter, Simon, David, and James at the end. At this point, he took away this James. I'm even adding Chris over here, and it's not even putting Chris at the end. It's not even putting Chris at the end. And if you look at the beginning of this set over here, James and Peter is beginning the set. But at this point now, it is now Simon and David. You understand? It is
Yes,
unordered.
sir.
It is on indexed.
An
So I'm
index.
adding an item to the set now, which is Chris, and Chris is in the middle. You understand? And Chris is in the middle. So moving on.
Can you change an item, sir?
When you convert it to a list, you change the item, then bring it back.
All right.
Another thing you can do is to use the update method. Now, if you have another iterable, a list or a tuple, you now want to, you see this add method, you are using it to add single items. What if you want to add multiple items? So I might have another set, say P2 equal to Daniel. Do I have Daniel here? No. Daniel and Alex. This is another set over here. And I want to add the items. You can see these multiple items now. I can say people dot update P2. Then if I should print people, you see that Daniel and Alex, this is Alex over here, and this is Daniel at the beginning. Like I said, unordered, unindexed, but they've made provision for ways by which you can add items to your set. Add items to your set. So you can also remove set items. You can also remove set items. So you can use the remove method. You can also use the discard method. So both of them have their use cases, the remove and the discard. So if I should now people now let's say I want to remove Chris. Let me start by removing an item that does not exist. For example, let me say can you give me a boy's name, please? Or I'm looking for a name. Let me say Charles. So I want to remove Charles from this list. I know that Charles does not exist. You understand? Charles does not exist.
Yes, sir.
So let me say people dot remove Charles. You can see it is giving me an error that Charles does not exist. Now, but if I use discard, understand? It will not raise an error if the item does not exist.
Does
So,
not
but
exist.
if it does not exist, if I say people dot remove, people dot remove, let me say David, and I print people. You see, Daniel, Simon, Chris, Alex, James, and Peter. You understand? David is gone. Now you can also use discard to remove David. But let me remove another person, say Alex, so it will be visible. Let me use Alex. So see, Alex is gone and David is gone too. So that is how you remove items from a set. Now you can also use pop, but pop is just going to remove a random item. Pop is going to remove a random item. So for example, if I say people dot pop, see Daniel is gone. If I should print people, see if you print people. So that is how you basically that's how you remove items from a set. If you want to clear the set, you can just say people dot clear. Let me print people and see it's an empty set. People is an empty set. So if you want to join sets, you can use union or update like we did over here. Like we did over here. You can see this, we have a set already on ground, which is James, Peter, Simon, and David. And we have this set over here, P2. Now we want to join the two of them together. We have people dot update. Understand? So this is one way for you to join a set. And in mathematics too, if you remember your union, you can also use union to join a set. You can use
to
union to
set.
join yes, you can use a union to join two sets. So let's say we have a set, let me say even equal to a set 2, 3, 4, 6. 3 shouldn't be there. Odd equal to 1, 3, 5, 7. Now if I want to join these sets together, I can use the union function to do something like set, or let me say all nums equal to even dot union odd, then print all nums. You see, so that is one way for you to join sets together. So now you can also find the intersection if you remember. If you remember the intersection in
Of the
if you
set.
remember your of a set. So basically, it will keep only the items that are present in both sets. Sure, you get the items that are present in both sets. So we also have the intersection update, but I'll just leave you guys to go and check those ones out. So we are going to be doing dictionaries. Um, I don't want to spend much time doing dictionaries. Now, a dictionary is a key value pair. If you take a good look at every other, we've spoken about the set, the tuple, and the list. Now, if you see in a set, this is a single item. You understand? This is a single item. In a tuple, this is a
Yes, sir.
single item. In a list, this is a single item. But in a dictionary, an item is a key value pair. In a dictionary, an item is a key value pair. So this is supposed to be a markdown. In a dictionary, an item is a key value pair. So you can have something like profile equal to, you bring in this curly braces over here. Bring in your curly braces. Then you can do something like name colon Chris age.
Is it a must you put that colon?
Yes,
Okay.
20. So if you look at what I have over here now, this is an item. This key and this value makes up an item. This key and this value makes up another item. So you can see the way you can keep adding everything. Can keep adding everything in a set. This is an item. You understand? This is an item. So this is also an item. For a tuple, this is a single item. You understand? But for a dictionary, this is an item. And for this item, this is the key and this is the value.
That's the value.
Yes, that's the key and that's the value. So a dictionary is used to store data values and key pair values. Now, when I started learning Python, I didn't give much thought to dictionaries, but guy, dictionaries they come in very handy, especially when you are trying to manipulate data gotten from a different server in your own server. At some point in your programming career, you are going to be working with JSON. You're going to be working with JSON. So JSON is JavaScript object notation. So in every programming language that uses JSON, especially say JavaScript, Python, PHP, JSON is the language by which servers on the internet exchange information. Sure you get. So
Yes, sir.
this JSON now is implemented just the same way this dictionary is implemented, where you have a key and a value. And the JSON can be so complicated that you have a key that the value is a list of items. You understand? And or you have
Yes, sir.
a key that the value is maybe it can be another, like a nested dictionary where you have a key and the value is another dictionary entirely, or a list of dictionaries. You understand what I'm saying? So that is how
Yes, sir.
complicated a dictionary can get. So you just have to pay attention to it once and for all so you get it. Now, um, what are we starting with? If you want to print your dictionary, you use the print function. Now, if you want to access a value, if you want to access a value or change an item, all you have to do, for example, let me print profile. You see, name Chris and the age is 20. You can see that the value of this one is a string. The value of this one is what? A, is an integer. So if I want to access the value of name, for example, I can say profile indexing name equal to, no, just print profile equal indexing name, print. That is how I can access the value of name. For age, just come here and say age. You see, it's giving me 20. That is how you access the value in a dictionary. So now, dictionaries are changeable, but duplicate keys are not allowed. Duplicate keys are not allowed in the sense that the most recent key will override the old key. Age, indexing, colon 24, for example. So you can see that the first one is 20, the second one is 24. If I should run this, you can see that age is 24 expressly. It is not taking this one into cognizance. So I can just delete this one. Duplicate keys are not allowed. Duplicate keys are not allowed. So you can use the len function to determine the number of key value pairs that you have in a dictionary. Don't forget, this is an item over here. This is another item. So originally, the number of items that we have here is going to be 2. So you can just print the len of profile. Run this. Yes, I'm supposed to close this. So that will be 2. That's how you get the number of elements in a in a dictionary rather.
Dictionary.
So now for you to access the item, 2 ways you can access the item. I've used one already here. This thing I did over here now, I've used one already. Profile, indexing age. This is what you'll be doing most likely. But you can also say x equal to profile dot get. Then you pass in the key that you are looking for, say name, print x. You see, this is one way to do it, and this is another way to do it, profile dot get. But I rarely use this. This is just what I will do normally. This is what I would do normally, but I just want to show you that whichever one you want to do, you will not be crucified for it.
All right, so I have a
So
question.
that is how you get the. Okay, please go on.
Um, does it
Go on.
allow duplicate value
Yes, you can have duplicate values.
but no
You
duplicate
can have
keys,
duplicate
right?
values, but you cannot have duplicate keys. You cannot have duplicate values, but you can have duplicate keys. Oh no, what am I saying? Your keys, you cannot have duplicate keys, but you can have duplicate values.
Okay.
You can have duplicate values, but not duplicate keys.
The sound is not
So,
express.
oh God, it's network. Oh. It's network. It's network.
Okay.
One day, all of us will gather around and we swear for this one. So, moving on. Um, Now, if you want to get all the keys, let us spice up this file. So, let me say friends. Let me steal one of these things I have here. Um, I should have a people. Okay, let me use this one. Okay, now if you want to get all the keys in this profile, all you have to do is just say profile dot keys. Hope you can hear me now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so profile dot keys. But if you want to get all the values, also just profile dot values. So you might get into a situation where you have to get all the values. You can see we have value crease 20, then this list over here. You can see that it is representing this list as a value. You understand? Also, you can get items. So this one will give you the key and the value. And see, this is a tuple over here, a list of tuples rather. A list of tuples rather. Name, Chris, age 20, friends, the list of friends, height 6.2, weight 89 points, and all that. So that is how you get values and items. So you can also check if a particular key exists. You can check if a particular key exists. Now, see, we have name, age, friends, height, and weight. Now, let me check if um, if weight exists. All I have to do is to do something like this. Weight mm, profile. You see, true. But if I want to look for BMI, for example, you see that it is false. Yeah, it is false. So that is that about that. How to check if a key exists. Now you can change dictionary values. You understand? It is mutable. You can change dictionary values. You can change dictionary values. Now, how do you change a dictionary value? Very easy. The first thing you might want to do, for example, let me change this person's name to maybe goodness. Yes, let me change this name to goodness. Let me change this name to goodness. So don't forget that profile indexing name equals to what? Chris. But if I want to change this profile to goodness, all I have to do is this particular key over here equal to, let me do it in another kernel.
Goodness.
I'll just say profile indexing name equal to goodness. Now print profile. You can now see that the name is goodness. Name is no longer Chris like it used to be. Name is now goodness. So that is how you change the value in a dictionary. So there's another way to do it, but the other way is I don't want to say is the it's not the big boy way to do it. So let's just leave it. Let's just leave it. So you can also remove an item from a dictionary. You can remove an item from a dictionary. How do you remove the item from the dictionary? Basically, you pop the the key. If you pop the key from the dictionary, for example, this friends over here, I can just say if I want to remove friends, I'll just say profile dot pop. Just pop the profile out. Then what key do I want to remove? Friends. You see, it is returning the value of what I popped. So profile, you see, friends gone. Just me and myself alone. I don't want to have any friends. So that is how you pop. That is how you pop. That is how you remove a key from the list. Okay. So moving
Yes, sir.
on. Moving on. I think we're almost done with dictionaries. Think we are almost done with dictionaries. I'm trying to. Okay, now you can also loop through a dictionary. You can loop through a dictionary. So there are so many ways by which you can loop through a dictionary. The first way you can use um you can say this is my dictionary profile. I have name, age, height, and weight. You can say for item in profile. Just come and print the item for me. You see, it is printing name, age, height, and weight. Basically, it is seeing it as the keys. You understand? It's still the same thing as saying profile dot keys. See, name, age, height, and weight. But what if you want to print items? You see, it is giving me name, goodness, age, name, goodness, age, 20, height, and what have you. But you can see that this is returning a tuple. This is giving me a tuple. This is giving me a tuple, and this is also giving me a tuple. So basically, it is returning a list of tuples. Now, if you remember what we did here, tuple unpacking. If you remember what we did here, tuple, yeah, exactly. This is tuple unpacking over here. You understand? Now, we can apply that same tuple unpacking here by saying for key, comma, value. Understand? So for every item, this is going to be the key, and this other side is going to be the value. So you can just say print. Let me use the formatted string key equal to key, then value equal to value. So you see what I have for the first item. The key is name, goodness, age. The value is 20. So that is how you can loop through a dictionary. There are so many ways to loop
Dictionary.
a dictionary. So there are so many ways to loop through a dictionary, but you rarely come in contact with a scenario where you have to loop through a dictionary. I don't think I've ever had to loop through a dictionary, but it's something. It's good to know that it is something that you can do. It's good to know that it's something you can do. So now, you can also copy a dictionary. You can copy a dictionary. So there's this copy function. I don't want to spend too much time on it. If you want to duplicate a dictionary, the best way to do it is to do something like this. Profile, you can put an underscore just to create another variable. Then you say profile dot copy. This is the best way to duplicate, to copy a list, a dictionary rather. Profile underscore. If I should print it, you can see it is still the same thing. So this is the proper way for you to copy a dictionary. So you can also have a nested dictionary. You understand? A nested dictionary. Let me just show you what a nested dictionary looks like. Basically, when they say something is nested, it's having something that looks like itself inside itself. So you can see these friends over here. You can see these friends over here. Let me say okay, let me do this. This profile. Now, let me say child one equal to, let me say the name of the child is Sinley. The age of the child is maybe 2. Child have a height of say 4 points. No, it cannot be 4.3.2. I don't know what this can be. Then the weight of the child. The weight of the child is what? The weight of the child is maybe 40. Hope this is hope this is realistic. So this is child one, this is child two.
40.
Okay. So but let me change the name of this one to Sandra. So now I can come here and say profile, profile equal to, can say children equal to a list. And inside the list you have child one and child two. You get? And child one is what? A dictionary. Child two is another dictionary. So you can see I'm having a dictionary and I'm having a list. And inside this list, I'm also having another dictionary. You get? So if I should run this
Yes, sir.
and I print profile, it looks so messy. Okay. See, the name is what? Chris. The age is 20. Friends, James, Peter, Simon, and whatever. The height, the weight. Now you can see the children. I'm having a list. And this is the first item in the list. Then this is the second item in the list. So you can, this is what a typical JSON this thing might look like. You'll be having nested dictionaries and all that. So it's just good for you to get used to seeing something like this now. So one thing I've not shown us how to do is how to add an item to a dictionary. You can see this, yeah, I'm having name Chris, age is 20, friends is this. So um I've removed friends at this point. Now, let me add a BMI to this profile. You can see this profile over here after printing it. If I want to add another key value pair to this particular list over here, now what I'll just do is I'll say, let me, I can just say profile, indexing, whatever is the key that I want to add, BMI. Then I'll just bring in the value equal to say um, 29.7. Then print profile. You can see I've added the BMI now. If I should print profile dot keys, You can see I'm having name, age, friends, weight, height, children, and BMI that I just added. Understand? You cannot just add key and you're not adding a value to it. You cannot add key and you're not adding a value to it. Every time you put in a key, the key must have a value. The key must have a value. So because an item is a key and a value, basically. So that about that. So I think I will leave we will leave dictionary like that. We'll leave dictionaries like that. So the next thing we are going to be talking about is the loops, the for loop and the while loop. The for loop and the while loop. Now, I didn't even remember to ask. Please, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions?
No, sir. No,
Because
sir.
this might be too much to swallow. This might be too much to swallow. So this might be too much to swallow. So moving on, we have the for loop and we have the while loop. The for loop and the while loop. So basically, you use the for loop and the while loop to carry out a set of instructions repeatedly. Now, the for
there'll
loop
be,
gives. Huh? I'm listening. I'm listening.
there'll be a recorded version, right?
Obviously, now it will be on all the
And
past this thing
so,
we have been doing. It's available on YouTube.
okay, they're on YouTube. All right.
I used to send the link now. The link that you used to join the stream, it will be available on YouTube. It will be
All
available.
right.
Okay. So, moving on, the for loop and the while loop. Uh, Now, like as I was saying, the for loop and the while loop, you use them for traversing, no, to carry out a set of instructions repeatedly. That is what you use the for loop and the while loop for, to carry out a set of instructions repeatedly. Now, the for loop gives you the flexibility of stating how many times this loop is supposed to run. Understand? For example, for I in range 1 to 10, from 1 to 10, just run and go away. You understand? Now, the while loop gives you the
Yes, sir.
flexibility of, okay, I don't know how many times this loop is supposed to run, but I know what the end result will look like. Okay, you program a condition there. For as long as the condition is true, the loop will keep running. But when it gets to a point where the condition is no longer true, it will break out of the loop. You understand? So now we start with for loop. Now, the for keyword is what you use to loop through a for loop. So let me bring in one of my let me use this one. Let me use this one. So loops markdown. So I have some names over here. Now to loop through them using a for loop, I can just say for name in names. Then print name. This is one use of the for loop. This is one use of the for loop. So now I need to introduce you to three statements, the break and the continue, the break and the continue. Now, the break and the continue apply to both the for loop and the while loop. Break is used to break out of the whole loop. If you want to break out of the whole loop, that is what you use break for. But continue is when you want to break out of the current iteration. Don't forget, for this example that we are working on now, we have halogen, Charles, man of mercy, and another halogen now. You can just say if let me give you an example. You can say if the name equal to Charles, for example, then continue. So continue basically is going to break out of the current iteration, which is that of Charles. If I should run this, you can see that everything I have is halogen, Charles, man of mercy, and halogen again. But what is the output I'm getting? I'm getting halogen, man of mercy, and halogen. What happened to Charles? I instructed Python that if the name is Charles, continue. And continue is going to break out of the current iteration, meaning that the control will never get to this point. So for that particular iteration, that is what you use continue for, to break out of the current iteration. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Now, but the break statement is used to break out of the whole loop. The whole loop. Continue, just the current iteration is what you are breaking out of. But break, you are breaking out of the whole loop. Now, come here, and let's say if the name is Charles, break. What will happen? And see, it will come here and print halogen first. Then it will come to Charles. As soon as you saw that the name is Charles, you break. Break is going to be terminating the whole of this loop. If it were continue, continue will be terminating only this current iteration, but break terminates the whole loop. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that is the break statement and the continue statement for you. So we also have the range function. We also have the range function. So this range function, I've used it countless number of times for us. So this is the way I'm supposed to explain it. Now, let me now the range function is used to create a series of numbers. Yeah. Now this series of numbers now, if you supply only one parameter, if you give only one parameter, it's going to be taking it as the stop. So start will automatically equal to 0 and the step will automatically equal to 1. But if you give two parameters, then the start is going to be the first parameter, the stop is going to be the second parameter, then the step is going to be equal to 1. But if you give three parameters, understand? So the start is going to be taking the first, the stop is going to be taking the second, and the step is going to be taking the third. This one is going to be the third parameter. Okay, so that is how it works basically. Now I can do something like for, let me say, range 20. Yeah, yeah, this range function now you can see that the start automatically is 0, the stop is 20, but it's not giving us the step. The step is going to be 1. So you can say for I in range 20, range I, you can see it's giving me 0 up to 19. Don't forget the stop is exclusive. Let me write it here. The stop parameter is exclusive, meaning that if you have 1 to 10, it is going to be counting from 1 to 9. It will not include 10. If you want it to include 10, you do 1 to 11. So it will count from 1 to 10. So that is it, the range function. So I'm giving, if I want it to count from 1 to 20, I'll be having 0 to 1 to 21. So if I should run this, you can see it will be counting from 1 to 20. But if the step now, if I want it to be counting in threes, for example, I'll just say 1 comma 21 comma 3. 1 4 7 10 in threes like that. If I want it to count in fours, you see 1 5 9 13 17 like that, like that. So that is how the range function works. That is how the range function works. And you can remember the way we use the range function to solve this problem over here. Counting backwards from the length of the word -1 to -1, it will stop at 0 basically, but the count is going to be -1 because I'm counting backwards. So that is how the range function works. That's how the range function works. Now, another thing you should know is the else function. The else function. So this else function, this else there's this thing called for else. If you are trying to write a program that will get a prime number, that will check if a number is a prime number or not, the else function comes in handy. It has so many other use cases. So basically, I can say, um, okay, let me use this one. Names. So I can say for name in names, print name. Else print there's no other person to print. Run this. You can see this is the name list over here. Halogen, Charles, Man of Mercy, and another halogen. Now, for name in names, print the name halogen, Charles, Man of Mercy, halogen. Then I've exhausted the list. Basically, this loop has no reason to run again. It will come into the else. You understand? This loop, it has no reason to run again. It will come into the else. But if I bring in a break statement, for example, if name equal to Charles, then break. You can see that it is giving me halogen and Charles. It is not going to get to this else because he encountered a break statement. And this else over here, this else block, is a part of this for loop. So break is breaking out of the whole loop. But if I don't bring in this break now, and this first block over here, the for block, is done executing, and there's no other thing to execute, it will automatically come to the else. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So even if you don't get it at the first glance now, it's something you can just in your leisure time so you can also have a list inside a list. There's rather a for loop inside another for loop. You can have a for loop inside another for loop. Let me give you one use case for it. If where you can have a for loop inside another for loop. So you can have something like um can have something like two color combinations, say, or okay, let me say color or let me say group one equal to, let me say, black and yellow. Black and yellow. Then group two equal to red and green. Now, for you to find all the possible combinations of these two groups, you can use a nested loop for X in group one, for Y in group two, print X, comma Y. If I should run this, you can see the combination that we have here. You can see the combination. We have black red, black green, yellow red, yellow green. So this is one way you can use a nested loop. This is one way you can use a nested loop. So basically a loop inside another loop. So for this first one now, it is saying for black, it will still come and execute another for loop. So it will take this black first, then it will combine black with red, black with green, then it is done executing for black. Then it will come back and execute for yellow, yellow and red, yellow and green. So that is the nested for loop, basically. That's the nested for loop. So um, you cannot declare an empty for loop, so you use the pass statement, but I'll leave that for now. So lastly, we go for the while loop. Now, like I said when I started, um, the for loop gives you the luxury of programming to the computer how many times the loop is going to execute. The for loop gives you that luxury. But the while loop, you don't know how many times this loop is going to run, but you know what will happen when at the end point, at the end result. So you know what will happen. Just keep running until this condition is false. You put a condition to it. When this condition is no longer true, then you terminate the loop. Now, your loop might run into an infinite loop. Your program might run into an infinite loop if you are not careful with the while loop. So let me show you what it looks like. I can do something like now the while loop. I can say count equal to 0. Then I'll say while count is less than 10. Keep printing count, but every time you print count, you have to increment count by 1. I should run this. You can see it is from 0 to 9. This is how you write a while loop basically. So count equals to 0. I'm starting a count variable. Now, I'm saying in this particular case now, I know how many times the loop will run, obviously. But take a good look at a web server or something. Take a good look at a web server where the web server have to be on 247, like no downtime. You cannot use a for loop to keep the web server there. It's something like a while loop you can use to keep the web server there because it doesn't want to know when it is. Just give me a condition that until it is false, that is when I'm supposed to close down. So basically, that is how you write a while loop. The while you declare a count variable, it can be indexed, it can be count, it can be whatever you want it to be. So equal to 0, and you must increment. You know that if you don't increment, this program will run into an infinite loop and it can crash your device. So you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful. So the break statement, just the same way it works in for loop, the break statement works in while loop. For the current iteration, the continue statement is going to just break out of the current iteration, just like in for loop. But the break statement is going to break out of the whole loop. And just as we have for else in the for loop, we also have while else in the while loop. So let's just do a bit of practice. For the break statement, I can say before you do anything, let's start with the continue statement. If count equal to 7, continue. I should run this. You can see continue is breaking out of the loop. What will break do? I'm having a bit of issue here. So I should run this. Okay, 6. That is for break. Continue. I think break and continue work alike then in while I think something is wrong with my machine over here. But normally, something is wrong with my machine over there. But the break statement, we can stop the loop even while the condition is true. Like with the break statement, you break out of the whole loop. But the continue, you continue with the next iteration. I think something is wrong with my machine. That's why it's not showing there. Then the else basically, when this while loop is done executing, the else kicks in. For example, let me remove this one. If I should run this, you see I have 0 to 9. And the reason why the loop is repeating is because count is still less than 10. I can now come here and say count, no, else, print f, count is no longer less than 10, new value equal to, now let me bring in count. I should run this, you see, the condition for this loop to keep on running is that count is less than 10. So 0, at 0, count is less than 10, 1, 2. When it gets to 9, it is still less than 10. But when it gets to 10, 10 is not less than 10. So it will break out of this while loop. Then it's not this while block. Then you start running the else block. And as you can see, count is no longer less than 10, but the new value of count is 10. 10 is not less than 10. So there's no reason for it to run. If it were less than and equal to, so, and I run this, understand, it will be less than or equal to, so it will even run for 10, but the new value is going to be 11. So even this one, we should be count is no longer less than or equal to, or equal to 10. So, so that is it. That is it. Any question?
No, sir.
Okay. So, well, I saw the question that you sent. Let me put it over here. So it should be the last thing we do before we call it a day. Okay, write a while loop that add all the numbers up to 100 inclusive. So that will be that we add from 0 to 100. Abby?
Yes, sir.
From 0 to 100. That one is small. Um, that we add up from 0 to 100. Okay, so you can declare a variable sum. Let me say the results. Declare result and say it's equal to 0. You understand? Then you bring in, you declare another index. This index is equal to 0. Then you start your while loop while your index is less than or equal to 100. What do I want to do? Result plus equal to index. Then index plus equal to 1. Don't forget, you have to increment index. If not, like I said, you have to be careful with the while loop. You see that even my machine ran into ran into something here. This increment, it has to be there. It has to be there. Please don't forget. So your system
All right,
will make
sir.
it
Why?
specify. Yeah. So now you can just,
I
if you
have a
want to do it,
question.
okay, I'm listening.
Okay, why do we have to do result plus or equal to index? Why? I don't get that.
Now, um, if I want to add up all the numbers between 1 and 10, you understand? Basically, what I have to do is mathematically 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10. You understand? Now, another way
Yes.
for me to do it
Yes, sir.
is to declare a variable sum. You understand? Then I'll now say sum plus 0, 0, sum plus 1, 1, sum plus 2,
One.
3. No, 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 no. Sum plus zero is zero. Have you?
Sum plus
Now,
one. Yes, sir.
sum plus one. Sum is initially zero. Now you're adding one.
Zero.
It is what?
It is one.
It is one. Exactly. Now sum is now one. The next number to add is two. So sum plus two is what?
Three.
It will be three. So that is how you'll be adding sum
Yes, sir.
to all those numbers till you get to 10 and you will still get the same answer. So that is what I'm trying to do here. So basically, index is going to be running from 0 to 100. And along the way, while index is running from 0 to 100, whatever is the value of index, add it to result. That is what I'm doing. So this one now will be result plus 0, result plus 1, result plus 2. And mind you, it is not result equals to index. It is result plus equal to index because you are
Plus of result.
appending all the results to one location. For example, in the university, so during my university days, don't mind me, I finished this year. They never even approve our results. So during my
Ah,
university
how come I?
days,
How come I've never seen you once? So
we can catch up later now. So
yeah,
I
because
remember my year one days at
I was
DLI Unilag. We can be very many. I think we are up to 150 that want to submit assignments. You understand? Now, one way for the assignment to get to the lecturer is for the lecturer to accommodate all of us. Everybody will individually go and submit to the lecturer. In case of 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, everybody will just go. You understand? Another way for the assignment to get
yes,
to the
sir.
lecturer is for one person to come and stand our course rep. All of us will go and submit to that course rep. Then that one will now go and submit to the lecturer. Do you understand what I'm saying? One way is for
Yes,
everybody to
sir.
go individually. In the case of 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 up to plus 100. Or one person will come and stand, collect all the assignments, then the person will go and submit. In the case of result plus 0, result plus 1, result plus 2, result plus 3, till it gets to 100. Till it gets to 100. So that is what I'm trying to do here. So
Yes, sir.
you can say, don't let us do this one. Let's just go straight away. Print results. So, and results, if you should run this, 5050. 5050 is what it's giving me. I know I don't have to check. This thing is correct. I know I don't have to check. So 5050 is what it's giving me. Is what it's giving me. So, well, that will be all for today. So don't forget, you can always come back to the broadcast. You can always come back to it. It's available on YouTube. So thank you very much.
All
It's been 2 hours of stream. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.
right. So I
Huh?
was, I was telling one of our lecturers about you. So he was saying you finished this year, and I was a bit confused. Like I didn't believe you finished this year. You know Dr. Julius now, Ehige.
Ah, na my oga be that too.
He was trying to describe you.